Hello, and welcome back to UI Chat from the Interface, the podcast focused on the latest news from Ubiquiti and anything network related. I'm Alex, and once again, I'm joined by Evan McCann. Hi, Evan. How you doing?
Good, and good to be back here with another guest. I have to say, I'm officially outnumbered. I'm from the US, so I say router, but we have another guy from the UK, so we have two router people here on the podcast.
Brilliant. So welcome, James Regular, or as you might be known, Jim the IT guy. So how you doing?
Thank you for having me both. Yeah, all is good. Yes, it's definitely router, not router. Routers are for wood. Routers, root packets.
We can fight about that later.
Oh dear. So before we get into the latest stuff for the last few weeks about all the Ubiquiti news and UWC, we just want to have a quick chat with James, or Jim, really, about who he is, because people might not know who you are, and what you do online. So I interviewed you on my other podcast, Creator Spotlight, a few years ago now, but I think quite a few things have changed since then. So, roughly, who are you and what do you do?
So, my name is Jim, and I am, as it says, an IT guy. I've been doing IT for over 20 years. I work primarily in the MSP, so the managed service provider space, but have been dealing with IT companies, infrastructure, large and small, for 20 plus years. And have been obviously involved with using Ubiquiti's UniFi and AirMax US range in that time. Again, I've covered the UK, international, and things like that for work, and obviously ventured out into the social media, onto YouTube, and primarily TikTok is my general home, trying to put a bit of a business spin on IT related subjects.
Nice. I noticed some of the long form YouTube stuff you've sort of maybe moved away from now. Are you finding a lot of traction on YouTube Shorts and TikTok now? Is that what you're finding, or?
My main traction is on TikTok.
Right. Okay.
YouTube, yeah. So most of my stuff is, I say, call and response to a certain degree. It's people asking questions or me highlighting something and then engaging quickly with the audience that way. I find TikTok is a better platform than that. That being said, I know I need to do more long form YouTube. The problem I have is dedicating the time to doing the content, with work, with other social media, and with other life commitments. It's something I will be focusing back again on. I need to do some more reference firewalls and things like that, and making some plans around that to do with things like high availability and that, which is something that UniFi is starting to focus on. Whereas, we've been sort of used to using it in other forms. I'm primarily a Sophos person, so I use Sophos for my firewalls, next-gen firewalls, but it's going to be a nice way to compare two different things. And obviously if something hits on a TikTok, it will end up normally as a YouTube short as well. So a bit of both, but primarily I'm on TikTok a lot of the time now.
Yeah, those sort of long form videos, I do a lot of them. They take an obscene amount of time to make. I don't think people actually realise that. A lot of the people I spoke to when I did the Creator Spotlight podcast, for a 20-minute video, there's so much editing and so much planning that goes into them. It's crazy. But a lot of people can actually crank out as many videos as they actually do, to be honest. But you've got to balance the time and what you're getting in return. So yeah, definitely.
Yes, very much.
Sweet. Okay, so before we get into all the other Ubiquiti news and UWC again, thanks to everyone who has been supporting the show so far. We would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel on YouTube or leave us a review in your podcast app of choice. It really helps. Thank you. So, Evan couldn't, unfortunately, not attend to UWC this time around. There was 4 events. There was one in Berlin, London, and then Mexico City and Brazil, I think. But me and Jim attended the one in London. I think it was literally this time last week now. Unfortunately, we can't talk about a lot of stuff that was announced, but I think one thing that people will find interesting is what the whole experience was like. So did you went to the one last year, didn't you? You did, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was in a hotel in the centre of London, and this one was more in a middle of a park. I think it was a bit harder to get to, but yeah.
Battersea Park.
That's the one. Yeah. No, it was a good venue. I think anecdotally there's a lot more people than last time. Someone said on stage around 1,000 people, which maybe that was true. I don't know. It seemed like it. So
yes,
it seemed like a lot of people.
Maybe even more than that.
Yeah, definitely. There was some interesting stuff spoken about. There was Robert Perra did his sort of how they're planning on going forward in 2025 and the next few years. There was an interesting talk from a guy who runs the IT at Sony Sports. Now, I'd never heard of them, and they do a lot of sort of the VAR for football. And he basically did a whole presentation on how that company have transitioned from using whatever they were using before to Ubiquiti. I found that quite interesting. I thought he did quite a good presentation. There was a lot of stuff, but the main thing was we got to see people that we don't see usually, maybe once a year sort of thing. So I thought it was quite good. What did you think?
Yeah, very much. Comparing it from this year's to last year's, there was a lot more focus, I think. There was a lot more drive behind it. It did seem a lot better organised overall as a thing. The venue was better. The venue was better laid out for it. Yeah. It was a lot smoother. It just felt nicer as an experience overall, I think. And then obviously there was a lot more content as well, I think.
Yeah, they sort of Robert Perra did his overview of what stuff we can expect, some very brief highlights of products that are coming soon, software improvements, and then there was a bit like Apple do now with WWDC. There was specialists from those departments coming in and talking about those products more in depth. So it was useful. But yeah, again, unfortunately, there is some information online if someone's interested in going and seeing what was launched, but we don't really want to cover it on the show. Just
yeah.
Yeah.
The only word I can use to summarize it is more.
Yeah.
More. There is more coming.
Yeah. No, it was really good. I don't know if they'll be doing a US one anytime soon, but hopefully there is one coming up soon for Evan. Have you attended one at all, Evan, or not?
No, I missed the original one. I know that there was one in, I believe, Miami. I can't remember what other U.S. dates they've had. I think Chicago might have been the very first one. But yes, no, I've never been able to attend one. But yeah, I'm hoping. It seems like they were doing a lot of the Europe and South America dates in May. They haven't announced anything as far as even Canada or U.S. dates. But I would assume they're coming this summer, maybe this fall. And I'll be looking to go to one then.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's, as I said, it's good to see people again that we only see once a year. I get it when I do my car stuff. There's people that are in that sort of space that you only see every now and again. So it's nice to see people in real life for once, I guess. So, but yeah, very good event. I'm glad Ubiquiti's doing this sort of thing because I think, as we said before, Ubiquiti are a very sort of traditionally insular company, and they're starting to sort of walk outside a bit more. So. Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
Yeah, and some follow-up from last time. We've had a lot of both software and hardware, but especially hardware that has been announced and coming soon that finally did drop. So we did get the U7 Pro Outdoor. I think we talked about that last time or 2 episodes ago. That is now available. It's $279 USD. The Pro XG8 PoE switch. This is like the really small kind of desktop size model, but with like the high end PoE and high speed ports, all 10 gigabit RJ45. That's now available for $499. And the Wave AP Gen 2 is also, I think this has been a few months that it's kind of been in a coming soon or kind of like soft launched state, but that's $599. And that's kind of a newer option than the Wave AP and the Wave AP Micro for UISP point-to-multipoint networks.
I think the Wave AP Gen 2 was announced in October.
I was going to say, I didn't want to say last year, but yeah, it's been quite a bit of time since they announced it. And I don't know if it was launched, in the past week or two, but I just noticed it going to the store for the show notes that it's now out there.
It was definitely after last episode. So
right.
Yeah.
And speaking of APs that are still coming soon, the last one that we know of that's still in that kind of we're waiting for the date status is the U7 Audience. This is the big, like $2,000 stadium size AP. It was supposed to be out in March, and I think last time we covered that it changed to coming soon. It is still quote unquote coming soon. And our kind of speculation for that, as well as some interesting details about the U7 Pro Outdoor, is specifically with outdoor 6 gigahertz operation. I wasn't aware until we were talking before the show, but Jim, you said the U7 Pro Outdoor is available in the UK, but it's a different model. Is that right?
Yeah, the U7 Pro Outdoor does not have the 6 gigahertz radio in the EU and the UK. There's legislation in effect here that part of some of the things we can tell you from UWC, because the question was asked, was around this model, asking why it didn't have the 6 gig radio. And the answer from Ubiquiti was legally they are not allowed to manufacture a weatherproof 6 gigahertz device currently. So if you were looking at the U7 Pro Outdoor thinking, well, it's the same as the US one, they've just omitted the 6 gigahertz radio in the specs. No, it doesn't even have the 6 gigahertz radio. So whilst a better device than the U7 Outdoor, it's still not the same as the US version of, or the international, I suppose, version of the U7 Pro Outdoor. When we will see 6 gigahertz outdoor properly in the UK and the EU is down to local legislation.
Yeah. That question was asked to a guy called Dan Heath, who is based in the UK and works at Ubiquiti. He was really knowledgeable about Wi-Fi and all the different legislations that go on, and he gave a really good explanation about those types of things. I think there was something related to the U7 Audience as well. Something I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I believe the audience for the EU and the UK market, they might try and release it with 3 5 gigahertz radios.
That was it.
Yeah, so it will support Wi-Fi 7, but it won't support 6 gigahertz on Wi-Fi 7, and obviously it's the spiritual successor to the base station XG at that point, but it just, instead of a 2.4 and a 5 gig radio, well, no, the base station didn't even have a 2.4. It was all 5 gigahertz. So it's just an updated base station at that point.
It is a bit more expensive as well, because the base station used to be £1,500 and this one's £2,000. So we'll see how they get on with that. But yeah, interesting stuff. Definitely, there's a good chance to, coming back to UWC, there's a good chance to ask those weird questions that you're not going to get an answer from, really. And there was, I can't remember, but there was loads of those sort of little nitpick questions which were like, oh, okay, that's good. And then I should have written them down, really, but yeah.
Yeah, it was useful to be able to ask directly.
Yep.
Who knew 6 gigahertz was so complicated?
There is just on Ubiquiti's site actually a list of all the countries, and currently the only 2 countries that are listed as supporting 6 gigahertz outdoor is the US and Canada.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that list grows, but I mean, even indoor 6 gigahertz operation, if you just look at the planet as a whole and how many different regulatory domains are, how many different regulatory bodies that manage that, and the different rules for different countries, it's complicated to do indoors, period.
Yep.
Getting to standard power and outdoor operation, it's just 10 times more complicated because that you need a GPS chip, you need to do the AFC, the frequency coordination, you need to deal with the EU and UK rules about what radios you can have in there. If I were Ubiquiti, I would kind of be kind of overwhelmed by just how many different sets of rules to manage, a product like that running outdoors.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And speaking of overwhelming, we got a security advisory bulletin 47. This is mostly for UniFi Protect. And the one that covers UniFi Protect cameras was actually a CVSS base score of 10, which is top of the scale.
Oh, wow.
So this is a pretty serious issue. But the one for Protect cameras was described as a malicious actor. And a malicious actor with access to the management network could execute a RCE, remote code execution by exploiting a heap buffer overflow vulnerability, which is a long, complicated way to say they could be running arbitrary commands and doing all sorts of nefarious things.
Okay.
So this is the one that was 10.0 critical. It affects UniFi Protect cameras with firmware 4.75.43 and earlier. So if you have Protect cameras, make sure you update to 4.75.62 or later. There's also kind of a related one for UniFi Protect, the actual application itself. This is just the recipient of a live stream link could maintain access to the live stream even after the live stream was disabled. So this is a lower severity, but this was addressed in 5.3.45. So as always, keep an eye out for these bulletins and make sure you're updating your software.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Stay up to date.
Yeah, definitely. There's a handful of software things, mostly related to Protect this month. We saw one of these cameras. I think actually two of them were at UWC. I think maybe the G6 PTZ was there. I can't quite remember, but I know one of the. No, it wasn't actually. Was it the G5? Was the AI PTZ Industrial was? Yes. And so there's three new cameras. There's the G6 PTZ, the AI PTZ Industrial, and then a new camera, the AI PTZ Precision, which has some very interesting features to do with like automatic focusing and those sort of things. So the first one is the G6 PTZ. You've actually got a release date for it, June 17th, apparently. That must be the US date because it still says...
That's the US date, yeah.
Still says coming soon on the UK one. So this one is essentially... Oh, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, coming soon, the standard UniFi PTA.
Yeah. So the G6 PTZ is essentially a slightly bigger version of the G5 PTZ with some extra features. It's got that new CPU that the G6 range of cameras has got. So for that enhanced AI detections and the one they count as multi-tops AI engine and that new sensor to the one. How do you pronounce that? Was it 1/1/8? Was it 1/1/8?
1 1/8. Yeah, 1 1/8. Yeah.
I've always read that rather than said it out loud. So 4K sensor, 8 megapixels, and it's got the micro SD card slot for edge recording and all those sort of features. I was surprised because I've never seen a G5 PTZ in person, how small it actually is. It's really quite diddy. In pictures, it might look quite large. And it's quite surprising to see just how small it is. Be quite discreet, that one. So,
yes.
Yeah, and the G6 is a bit bigger. It's got the same built-in spotlight. It's got weird. I haven't watched any reviews of it, but it's got two cameras. Yeah, so one's a telephoto and one's a wide angle. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm interested to see how Protect's going to deal with that. I don't know.
I think it's allows it to hand over effectively the same way your mobile phone camera does.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So it overlays them and then it uses the appropriate lens and zoom.
I see.
They call it a 10x hybrid. So yeah, I wasn't at UWC and I haven't seen this. But my assumption would be it kind of is like an iPhone where you have multiple lenses with different zoom ranges, and once you get beyond 2x, it flips to the telephoto lens or something like that, and it's shown as one camera stream, one view, and it's just which lens are you using based on how zoomed in you are. But combined, you can go from a very wide angle to a very zoomed in angle. It has a 10x range between the two lenses.
Yeah, there's a little tooltip next to it, actually, which has only just been added. It says a combination of 5x optical and 2x digital zoom.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's a marked improvement. I have a G5 PTZ, and the zoom is not amazing on it.
Okay.
So it is nice to see that lifted up in the G6 range with that additional lens. Big improvement. I think the G6 range is a big improvement.
Yeah.
Overall, anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
And that kind of fits into last time when we were talking about the G6 cameras in general. The G5 cameras are staying around as like an entry level option. The G6 are the new kind of like flagship models that add the AI features. Like this, if you compare the G5 to the G6 PTZ, You got me saying Z. I'm going to say router here soon too. Yes, it adds the AI features, like it adds face detection and license plate detection. It has the better zoom. But in general, it's just like a high resolution camera, more features. Like that's what you get when you go from G5 to G6, and we're probably going to see both of those ranges stay for a long time.
Yeah.
I think we can class the G3 and the G4 range as approaching, I suppose they'd be legacy.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
well, actually, the G4 Bullet was on the store. It's sold out now. It was £94 in the UK, so that's like half price. For a little while, it was on the store for a while. So I guess they're just clearing stock of that one. So yeah. And interestingly, again at UWC, I can't remember his exact name, but one of the camera guys addressed the differences. He said, a common question is, what's all these different generations for? And he said the exact same thing. He said that the G5 is that entry-level range. It's got good performance, basic AI features. That makes a lot of sense, really. The other thing that G6 PTZ has got is two-way audio. I don't think the G5 has that.
It doesn't.
I don't believe, no. So it's got a speaker and a microphone now, which is quite cool. So yeah, pretty good. The AI PTZ I'll gloss over briefly because it is essentially like a facelifted version of the G4 PTZ. Exact same body by the look of things, exact same lens, everything. It's just got, by the sound of things, a better CPU. So that multi-tops engine that Ubiquiti are calling it. Again, same sort of thing. So 22 times optical lens, zoom, and yeah, it just looks like an uplifted version of that one. I think it's a bit cheaper now as well. So I think the price has come down slightly. So I'll do UK prices. So the G4 was £1,700 and the AI PTZ is now £1,200. So there's a £500 difference roughly. So pretty good there. Yeah. Have you used the G4 PTZ, Jim, or not?
I haven't found anyone that would invest that in that sort of camera, unfortunately.
Oh man, because I know Clay did a review of that camera, and like a lot of his camera reviews, it was really detailed, and he zoomed in on a lot of stuff, and it's really impressive. Yeah, a really good camera.
I could imagine anyone who's invested in the G4 PTZs. The AI port would be a no-nonsense, an absolute no-brainer for that unit, because it would basically just upgrade it at that point to an AI PTZ.
Essentially,
give or take a few little things, but that would be a no-brainer for anyone. That if I'd installed some, I would be saying, "Hey, just go buy this."
Yeah, because I believe that would add the license plate detection, the face stuff, so all the features, and if it's the exact same lens and camera system as the new one, so you might as well with that one. The other little difference between the G4 PTZ and the AI PTZ is the fact that the AI version's got a table or desk stand now, so you can mount it upside down. There are some, it looks really weird when you do that. I'll put an image on screen if you're watching this on YouTube, but it just looks like, if I can find a picture of it, it just looks really strange, just sat on a desk. There were some marketing images of that one. So,
yes. I don't know. I can't see a use case really for that, but I'm sure there is one somewhere.
Yeah.
You can use the 22x zoom to check out your nose hairs maybe or something.
Make an interesting meeting room camera.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Be an interesting way to do it, but it would make a very interesting meeting room camera, I think. It'd definitely be a talking point because it's probably not that quiet.
No. But the camera that is the big star of the show is this new Precision version. There's no pricing information for this one, but I can imagine this one being over £2,000, dollars, whatever. It looks pretty impressive in terms of specs. When you look at them side by side, there is a fair amount of difference. The whole, I guess you call it the gimbal section of it is completely, it looks a lot larger. And that's because we have a 31 times optical zoom now compared to 22. But also it's got built-in LiDAR. So like your iPhone, it's got LiDAR and it can apparently use it to focus on things quite quickly. So figure out exactly how far a person is away and adjust the focus for it and work that out in real time, which is really, really cool, to be honest. I can see that being quite useful in a lot of places.
Yeah, they were talking about you basically the use cases. You would pair it with an existing system,
Yeah.
and if something picked up something moving, you would then have the precision go straight to it, pick it up, and instantly zoom in on it. So it was more of it's like a secondary camera for sensitive environments to a certain degree, so you could see exactly what's going on instantly. That was one of the main sort of driving points behind having such a high optical zoom on it.
Yeah. The other thing, I think that's with Alarm Manager, isn't it? So I think it said if this camera detects this, zoom in with the So Alarm Manager is becoming quite powerful in the future. So yeah, as I said, I can imagine that being really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, the pricing will definitely be more than the AI PTZ Industrial. So in the US, that's definitely going to be over 1,300, probably closer to $2,000.
Yep.
But we'll see. It says coming Q3, so sometime this fall.
Yeah, and I can imagine other manufacturers of PTZ cameras being like Axis being very, very expensive. So comparatively, and now that Ubiquiti is adding all these features, they start to sort of nearly stack up with each other. So the hardware cost is
I think that's the market they're aiming at.
Seems like it, doesn't it?
Standard Ubiquiti disrupt the market.
Yep.
Go in and produce something that causes the other manufacturers to go, hold on a minute. I suppose the other thing as well with that precision is, to a certain degree, it kind of, in a way, it supersedes things like the AI DSLR.
Yeah.
If it's got that high level of zoom built in, then having a single camera that just has a zoom but can't move, I would imagine there's going to be potentially a side sort of push to the AI DSLR now, and the focus on the precision.
Yeah, quite possibly. I think Clay is the only person on the internet who's reviewed that AI DSLR, and it looks incredible in terms of what you can get out of it. But the use case is fairly limited, I think. So. Yeah.
I haven't thought of a use case for one that anyone in that budget range would go, yes, I'll buy that.
Yep.
But some people have, because it's sold out in the UK.
Sold out here. Maybe it's because they're not making them anymore. Who knows?
Well, this could be the thing. So
yeah, definitely.
The last thing I wanted to point out with these cameras before we move on, just all three of them are available in black and white. So I know that's something we've complained about before, and hooray for all cameras being available in both colors.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
And one other Protect piece of hardware, we have the AI horn speaker. So this is a all-weather PoE powered 120 decibels. So that's very loud. I think that's like approaching jet engine territory.
Oh, really? Wow.
Horn speaker. And they say it has advanced AI alert functionality and versatile wall, corner, and pole mounting options. So yeah, it's just a $300, or at least US pricing speaker. What wasn't clear to me, and maybe one of you guys know, did they talk about, like, is it just going to be like a fire alarm, or is it going to be like spoken instructions? Is it going to be like, please proceed to your nearest exit type alarm, or is it just, wee-oo? That wasn't clear from the description. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I believe this is going to rely heavily on Alarm Manager.
Right.
And you will be able to effectively preempt it with sentences and sounds. I think that's one of the things where some of the features will be coming soon. But
I watched a YouTube short unboxing of this. It popped up on my feed, and the guy, I can't remember his name, but he was running through the software, and you can talk through it. So there is a push to talk feature. That wasn't. They didn't. I'd have thought they'd add that to the product page, but anyway, I don't know.
I would assume it can be paired to a camera,
and
maybe it then adds that a functionality, much as you get with the doorbells, things like that, where you can then engage them.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think the primary focus for it is going to be pairing it with a camera, alarm manager and having the ability to say, please leave, please attend.
Yep.
I can't say any more due to the fact that we can't talk about it. There are things coming.
Yep. Yeah,
that's
definitely
about as much as I can say on that.
Right.
That will make this a very, very useful product.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what the end goal is, especially for this product, because we've talked about Protect a lot lately. New cameras, the AI key, the AI port. It's getting a lot of intelligence. Alarm Manager is really building out to be a bigger part of the product, and it's kind of moving beyond just here's a video feed of a camera. It's really kind of becoming like more of a security solution. The only thing, especially if this thing it isn't just an intercom, it has the ability to automatically say please leave. If you have this in a parking lot and you detect a person walking in the parking lot, and it'll speak instructions to the intruder. I don't know if you guys know 2001: A Space Odyssey, but if I ask it to open the pod bay doors, is it going to tell me no? Are these things going to start thinking for themselves? I'm just a little concerned about the AI overlord future that we're building here.
Yes.
Brilliant.
I could envisage if you maybe paired it with something like a camera and then the AI key, there may be features coming.
Right. Yeah, and more of that. The product description is pretty vague on those things, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about the software features and what this thing can do over time. I'm curious to see those details when we get them.
Yeah. I remember reading about. There's a look at the Axis website, because they seem to have various features like this that I think Ubiquiti are working on. So Axis have got a very, very similar looking device. Looks a bit more industrial than the Ubiquiti one. And it's the same sort of thing. It says it can be paired with a camera. It can play pre-recorded messages, or a person can talk over the speaker. It's got a built-in microphone for health testing, so you can check if the speaker's actually working, I guess. Again, it's Peary powered, and the thing they've advertised here is it's got built-in VoIP support, so it'll integrate within Axis's door access system. So I'd imagine maybe a similar thing's coming. I can't see why not. Potentially, so yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more integration between Protect and Access long term.
Yeah, I think so. Axis have got this audio manager software, and you can schedule messages to be played in time, and there's all sorts of things that you can possibly do with this. So I just thought it'd be interesting to see what the competitors are up to, because Axis have been doing this for a very long time. So
yeah, they're trying to integrate into a lot more of the industry standard ways of doing stuff, I think.
Yeah.
But adding the UniFi magic into it.
Yeah. This is only slightly related, a bit of a tangent, but I just remembered that the the AC EDU? Do you remember that access point that has a speaker built in?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to have anything like that, because for us in our headquarters building, we have PoE powered speakers that are used for announcements and stuff like that, and I don't want that built into my access point, but once you have a speaker, I wonder if they're going to have something that's not an outdoor big horn speaker, and they're going to have something indoors for offices to make announcements or do an intercom thing or something like that.
I think we can neither deny or confirm.
I'm really not trying to pull details that you heard about at UWC, I promise. The AC EDU, that just popped in my head. RIP that product.
Someone asked about the AC EDU last year, and I think Robert said, I can't remember what he said, but I think he said stay tuned. I think he said something along those lines. I can't quite remember though, but I think he said, it's interesting. So, because I remember at last year's event, someone asked about the Protect Sense devices, and he said, we've got something coming next year. So, and now we've got Superlink. So, things have been off relatively fast turnaround for this sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yes.
Sweet. The last hardware product we've got is I think this went a bit undetected. It was the U7 LR. I've never used a long-range access point, but my brief understanding is that they have their uses, but they are due to the fact they've got essentially more gain at the access point, they can cause some problems sometimes. So it's interesting to see that they've decided to do another one. Is that your experience?
Yes, they're one of those access points that has a place. The idea, the general purpose we use for the LR range is things like workshops, things like that, where big open space, not a lot of density of clients, but big, clear open spaces where you might want just a bit extra range, or because you've got a slightly better gain on the antennas, but you're not dealing with masses of congestion, things like that. And a light, for example, is just not quite up to the job.
Got you. That makes sense.
That's where we fit them.
Yeah, Evan's helpfully put some little pros and cons in here. So this one's got compared to the U6 LR, which this new U7 is actually cheaper. Like I said, about £20 in the UK anyway, cheaper. So it's got Wi-Fi 7 on 5 gig and 2.4 gig only. So there's no 6 gig support on this one. Which I think they're reserving the 6 gig support for their Pro devices essentially. It uses less power. It only uses AF PoE. We've got 2.5 gig uplink now, and a slightly higher 5 gig antenna gain and TX power. And Evan's mentioning here less spatial streams, lower max client count, less coverage area, no weatherproofing, and a plastic mount. So just little bits that go to saving costs basically. But yeah, it's like you said, they have their uses, but it's interesting to see they've done another one, and they must be selling enough of them to be useful. So
yeah, it's kind of a weird set of compromises, especially with how crowded the $100 to $200 AP range is now. I mean, we have the U7 Pro, U7 Pro Max, Pro XG, the U6 Enterprise, the U7 Lite, there's a dozen or so models in this range. It's kind of like a few benefits, a few drawbacks. In general, like Jim was saying, I don't think long range APs are the best fit for most places. I mean, normally you just want to reduce the distance between you and your AP. There's some places where the U7LR might be the right choice, but there's 8 other choices to make, and it's just kind of a slightly confusing sell for this model.
Yeah, because compared to the U7 Pro, there's $20 in it, so you might as well, unless you're buying thousands, that little difference isn't going to add up to a whole lot. So, but
it's one of those, because we can. I think we've always made an LR, therefore we have to make another one.
Yep.
It's also, I suppose, if you're swapping out for example, an AC Pro install, it's almost it's a Wi-Fi 7 version of the AC Pro to a certain degree. Right. Very similar specs in terms of things like that. I was just seeing what I had lying around here. I have a U7 Pro and a U7 Lite, and again they're two very different products, targeted at two very different audiences. And the LR does it just sort of sits in between them. It's a bit bigger than a Lite. It's a bit smaller. It's a bit slower than a Pro. So it's.
How's that for a sales pitch, guys?
Yeah. Just it's there and it exists.
There's as we've discussed on the show before, there's a lot of micro benefits from all these different models now, especially with the switches as well. Just these not strange, but like it could be a confusing decision when you're buying stuff, with all these different benefits and trade-offs and things. But
it just seems to be just a small step up, or almost, as I say, we've got AC Pros, but we want Wi-Fi 7, but we don't want to spend 7 Pro, Pro Max, XG money. U7 long range is almost a key-in swap.
Yeah.
And then means they're not having to put bigger PoE switching in. Doesn't necessarily need the 2.5 gig, but it's there for when you upgrade later on.
Yeah.
It's sort of a stepping stone AP to a certain degree.
Yeah. they've probably worked out what the whole reason for buying one. So yeah, cool.
But if that was compelling, it's $159 and available now. Woo! But speaking of compelling, we did over the past month, we've gotten a couple different builds of UniFi Network 9.2. So I think we had talked about 9.1 previously, either last month or the month before. We've had a couple different 9.2, and it seems like it's obviously not as big of a release as 9.0, and 9.1 had a lot of bigger features in it too, but 9.2 seems more based around refinement. There are quite a few new features, DHCP manager, there's a new roaming assistant option in Wi-Fi settings, and WAN SLA. So that's customizable monitoring of internet connection health. So you can set either a ping or a DNS test, change the interval and time period. And you can also set SLA targets based on packet loss, latency, or jitter thresholds. So this used to be the internet verification servers, where you could say, I want my gateway to ping this specific address on the internet to make sure it has connectivity. This is just a more robust, customizable way to do that. But then a lot of the other features that we saw in 9.2 were kind of refinement. A lot of the settings menus got improved. The dashboard got some tweaks. They moved a few settings around, but in general, I've been playing around with 9.2. It's a really nice release, and it should be hitting GA soon. I think we've already had like 4 different EA releases, and it seems to be they're nearing GA, probably early June.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I think this is part of must be part of the DHCP manager, is the fact that you can upload a CSV of your DHCP clients, I think, and you can bulk delete and do a lot of quite advanced stuff in that regard, because it's a bit labor inducive to try and do that sort of stuff at the moment. So yeah,
and that's a really nice improvement, and it's kind of overdue, because I know a lot of people, you could see the leases but you couldn't really do anything about it. Adding more features there, it's really nice and kind of overdue.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I meant to ask you, Evan, is there's a thing in here called roaming assistant. Do you have any idea of what that does? Because I can't find any information about what that's trying to do, or if there's any like IEEE standard for it.
I very briefly looked at that. So you need to be on the 9.2 EA release for network. You also need a compatible access point on 8.0.36 or newer.
Okay.
So I had to plug in a U7 Pro I had sitting here, get an EA firmware on it and all that. And it seems to be just, you can set a threshold. I forget what the setting used to be called, where you could say like at -75 dBm, force my client to roam.
Minimum RSSI.
Yes. So it seems to be basically minimum RSSI, just under a different name. That's the only setting I saw. I didn't play around with it too much, but it just seems to be that, where you kind of force a client off the AP at a certain threshold, and it'll try to roam to the nearest AP.
Yeah, they could do with putting more information in some of the release notes sometimes, is what this is, or maybe that's like a document. Maybe they'll do it when it's GA, but yeah.
They typically do that. So like in the initial 8.2, they had the bulk of the changes. The second 8.2 EA, they had kind of another half of them. And then usually they'll summarize that and put them all into the GA release notes. But yes, there definitely are times where they just say adds DHCP manager. It doesn't really explain what DHCP manager is or what that menu looks like, or those kind of things kind of need to live in documentation.
Yes. So roaming assistant says new in network 9.2. I take it back. It says this uses BSS transition frames to inform clients that they will be disassociated from the AP once they drop below a certain signal strength. The old approach of minimum RSSI was more of a hard kick, saying like kick off the boat sort of thing. This is a soft kick, and it's actually a supported feed. Oh, interesting. This is
minimum RSSI done correctly. But that's great to hear.
Is it a supported part of Wi-Fi 7?
It just says modern clients support this.
Yes.
Which means some clients won't, and it'll be a little bit tricky for older devices. Yeah. Wi-Fi always gets a little bit messy.
Yeah. Ubiquiti have tried this in the past a few times with a few different methods, and It's like band steering.
Yeah.
It's great until you get something that doesn't support it, and then it causes havoc.
Yeah. Yeah, generally, for what I guess, I don't know if you guys agree, but it's just better to have a properly set up coverage. And then there's a thing on the Apple's like enterprise documentation that Apple devices -65 is the threshold for when they start looking for other APs. So, yeah, a lot of these features are designed to like band-aids sort of thing sometimes. So
yeah, I think a lot of the features, especially with the volume of IoT devices that we're seeing now, I think a lot of these are band-aids to unfortunately deal with those guys being awkward.
Yeah, a lot of them
That's a very kind way to put it. They're awkward.
A lot of them can be an absolute pain.
Yes, this has been, as they say, they've tried this before.
Yeah.
And then they moved to the Min RSSI. Mm-hmm. And generally, yes, a properly set up wireless network, you shouldn't need to change any of those settings. The client ultimately controls the roam.
Yep.
If you're using the APs to control the roaming, then your network is in need of adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But Ubiquiti are not the only ones that have done this.
No.
Ruckus do it, I believe. I think Meraki do it. There's different ways to do it with different products.
Yeah. Is there anything else in Network 9.2 that's noteworthy, or?
Yeah, just a lot of the kind of redesigns of the menus, and they added AirView to Client Analyzer. They improved some of the side panel behavior. A lot of cleanup and kind of refinement seems to be what 9.2 is about.
Sweet. UniFi OS 4.2. It's got a sort of a large umbrella, but because it does apply to the UNVRs, it does apply to a lot of the stuff, but this is mainly to do with the network Dream Machines and stuff. I've had a chance to test this out, and network flows is amazing. It's really cool. You can see exactly where your devices are querying and on what ports and how much traffic and exactly when. It's really, really eye-opening to see what your device is doing, because I found out some IoT devices are not doing things they should be doing. So, I'm really impressed with that. That requires, I think, a UDM SE, a UDM Pro, and a UDM Pro Max. I think the other devices don't support it. I might be wrong with that.
Yeah, I think it's the Dream devices and up.
Yep.
So apart from probably maybe the Dream Router 7. But yeah,
potentially.
I mean, it's a very good indication to back up some of what we've seen in the direction of travel that Ubiquiti are pushing things now, is to try and close those, to close the whole, well, Ubiquiti doesn't do this, or UniFi can't do this.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, well, actually, we've got the flows, we've got the firewalls, we've got all the features are starting to come in at a low level. And it's there to, it's a great thing because it gives the power of the enterprise, not a word I like to really use, but enterprise power, to general people.
Yeah.
And it makes it easy.
Yeah, it's really easy.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's very clever what it can do.
And Jim, you said you're most familiar with Sophos. That's the firewall that you've spent the most time with. How? Yes. I'm just curious, kind of, not this specific release, but just kind of in general, the past year or two, they've added a ton. Like they did the zone-based firewall, the network flows that Alex just mentioned. All of these things, are they all coming together? And is it more of a Sophos competitor now with all of these things?
We're seeing the direction of travel is good. It's heading in the right direction. There's a lot of song and dance being made by Ubiquiti, rightly so, that hey, we now do this, we now do that, we now support this, we now support that. And it's where some people like myself in the industry are we do roll our eyes a little at it, because it's like, well, we've had that for 10 years. We've had that feature, we've had this, we've had that, and we've been spoiled. But it's coming to Ubiquiti, so they're able to tick the box and say, yes, we can now do that. Yes, we can do policy-based stuff. Yes, we can now do object-based stuff. But what obviously they're doing is they're putting the Ubiquiti aspect on it, the UniFi aspect on it, where they're actually making it easy to do, easy to use, easy to understand, which if you've ever used a next-gen firewall, some of them are absolutely brilliant and nice and easy in certain aspects, but you end up pulling what's left of your hair out with certain bits because you end up having to go into command line and you're just spending hours trying to solve simple problems that shouldn't need to be there because, oh, sorry, that module doesn't talk to that module or that sort of thing. But we're seeing features. We're seeing it with the Enterprise Fortress Gateway, with their Next AI features coming in for SSL scanning, things like that. It's all stuff that has been around in the industry a very long time, but we're starting to see it being made accessible to people, which is a good thing because, again, things like that only enhance people's network security and it allows them to see more, protect more, engage more, and to solve problems easier.
Yeah, definitely. They also add advanced MDNS options, which I had a quick look at. Allows you to enable the MDNS repeater, which in the past would just do everything. But you can now specify exactly what services you want. So what I did is just specify, because at home what I use is Matter and HomeKit. So I've just told it Matter and HomeKit, turned it on, nothing broke. So that means that there's not being flooded with all those extra bits that doesn't need to be there. So some nice options in there for MDNS and cleaning up sort of the multicast side of things. I haven't had a chance to play with hotspot portal certificates yet, but that's quite cool. It'd be nice to see when that comes out to the self-hosted stuff, but based on what me and Jim have seen, that probably won't be happening anytime soon. So, well, yeah, that's... Yeah.
Well, yeah, to be clear, this is UniFi OS 4.2. 12 is the release we're talking about. And this was for all the Dream Machines, the NAS, the NVRs.
Yep.
What isn't included is the UXG, just a gateway devices. Those are still in 4.1.
Yeah.
There's a 4.1.13 release candidate that I think was in the past few days, but there's been no 4.2 for UXGs yet. They're kind of always... I think the pattern's pretty clear. The UXGs will just be a month behind or so.
Yep.
So we'll probably see 4.2 in June for them. Yeah, just this is what pointed... I saw in the Wave PTMP PTP 3.4.4 rolls right off the tongue. This is what pointed out that the Wave AP Gen 2 is available. This was just a very small release, but I just saw that it said added support for this Wave AP Gen 2. So therefore it is on the store and available. And there are a bunch of other bug fix releases and minor things, but
yeah,
we picked out the most important ones that we care about at the very least, which is all UniFi networking. I think UniFi Protect had some minor bug fix things. I don't think there was a ton of other major software releases though.
I had a quick whiz through the day, and there was a lot of stuff, but there's nothing major that's worth talking about. In the past, we've done episodes where it's just endless list of just stuff. And they're not really that interesting to talk about sometimes. It's more interesting to talk about the big features. So a lot of nice improvements in a lot of places. But yeah, nothing really noteworthy in general. So
yeah. There's it's going to be a few months of coming soon.
I think so. Yeah. And there was a lot of stuff coming soon. So it's a lot of stuff to look forward to. It's quite impressive what Ubiquiti is working on in the next few months and maybe the rest of the year.
Cruel.
So.
Cruel to tease people, but yes, more coming soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, always.
Yep. So just before we get going and finish the episode, what have we been working on that we want to let people know that they can go and check out and have a look at? So what have you been working on,
Evan? Publicly, I didn't get anything done.
Oh man.
I saw I've just been so out of the zone with posting stuff to my website, and I realized the other day I'm like, I don't think I've had a post this year. So,
oh, dear me.
Yeah. Speaking of, Jim mentioned earlier, it's tough to balance time between work, personal, making content. I've been on the slacker side of that, but TP-Link did reach out to me. They did send me some hardware. So I am working on kind of an updated overview and maybe a review or two of that to spoil it slightly, Omada has grown up a lot. I looked at it pretty closely in, I think it was 2022. So it's been like 3 years or so. And I haven't really paid close attention to every change they've made, but I think it's really matured. It's still kind of a UniFi copy, where there's a lot of things where I'm like, the only reason why you have this menu this way is because UniFi does it that way. But if you put that aside, it's pretty decent hardware, and the software has matured a lot. So I'm going to be looking at that equipment and hopefully actually posting something about it sometime soon.
I've had the exact same box of stuff that you had, the exact same list of hardware. So that arrived yesterday, I think, or today. So some access points, a router, and
router.
I don't know what they call it. The cloud key, their cloud key equivalent.
Armada controller.
That's the one.
Yeah, the OC200.
Yeah, so interested to put that to its paces, because the only Armada equipment I've had my hands on are the very, very cheapest range of devices. And yeah, we'll see what it's like. Be quite nice. I've been working on, still weekly car reviews, which is taking a lot of time still. And I reviewed the AI port. Oh, that must have been last month, I think. I think we spoke about it last episode. I'm not too sure, but really impressive little device. Have you used it as well, Jim? The AI port.
I've got one here. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got 3 cameras on it. So one 4K camera, and two 2K cameras, I think. And about a month ago, every time something reboots, the cameras just get unpaired. There's a few strange issues with it sometimes. Like, I updated Protect the other day, and my G4 Pro stopped detecting anything, and I had to restart both the camera and the AI port. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know if the AI port is a bit overloaded in terms of RAM and stuff, but I'm hopefully they can fix some of those issues at the same time. But what it's added in terms of features is really impressive. And in my video, I drove a car past the camera to pick up the license plate. I compared it to the G5 Flex using its own built-in person detection, and compared how fast it was and how much it improved the detections on a G3 Bullet, for example. So I went right back to the oldest camera you can put on it, and it's really good. It's a really good little device. It's quite impressive. So yeah.
I'm my port being. I run mine with, obviously, is running on Dreamwall, so I have the obscure gateway. I have the much unloved Dream Machine, which is the Dreamwall, and it's a shame, really. And yeah,
we can probably say that Robert Perro was asked about it at UWC, and he said, "Yeah, it's not coming." They said, I think he said you can make some misses or something along like in that sort of analogy, saying that you can try some things and sometimes they don't work. So yeah, we can say that Dreamwall's not going to come anymore. So.
I think we can safely say that the Dreamwall is it was a product that could have been so great, but they swung and they definitely missed.
Yeah, it remains a product in their lineup.
If they had launched the Pro, if they had launched the Dreamwall Pro, they would have had a good product. Sadly, they have a mediocre product instead.
Is the Dreamwall Pro the one you've got?
No. I have the EA Dreamwall, and the difference between the EA and the GA was the size of the screen on the front.
Yeah, so one was tiny and one was long. Yeah.
Mine has the screen out of a normal Dream Machine, and then they went, "Oh no, we'll put." And we've installed Dreamwalls, and they're wonderful products.
Yeah.
But if they'd only listened to the feedback and put a hard disk in them,
yeah.
So close. They would have been so close with it. But drop the 2 power supplies and put a hard disk in it, and that's all it needed.
Oh dear, yeah.
I was just looking at mine actually, because yes, my AI port dropped one of my cameras. So yeah, there is a known ongoing issue with them.
There is.
But that being said, if you do have G3s, G4s, and you want to add the feature set, then yes. Mm-hmm. My caveat, and as I said, I did a small review on the AI port as well, is that it won't make a poor quality image better.
Mm-hmm.
So do not expect to be reading number plates at 100 yards off of a G3 Flex at night. In fact, don't expect to be reading number plates at night on any Flex.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
But it's a very good little product, and especially if you have some of the more... if you've got a G4 or a G5 Pro,
mm-hmm.
then it's worth it. for things like that, and yeah, it's I've got it looking at G5 flexes, G4 bullets, and a doorbell, and it's nice to be able to see who's driving past the end of my road and things like that.
Yep. I've got mine hooked up to a G3 Pro as well, actually. So it's a G3 Pro. Oh yeah, G3 Pro, G4 Pro, and a G5 bullet, I think. And it's actually the license plate detection's working really well on the G3 Pro, which is quite surprising because that's quite a low res sensor. Which I was quite surprised about. So
I'll have to go and install it on the end of the road.
I was quite surprised. But yeah, and yeah, a good little product. It's not a bad price as well, really, for what you get. Essentially, a little tiny computer in a box, really. So yeah. What are you working on, Jim, for the next?
Work, unfortunately. Work is my main focus at the moment. We're in the middle of a big project to migrate someone over from a mix and match Netgear network over to a Ubiquiti network. It's going to be all ProMax switching, nice. G6 cameras, ProMax APs. Interestingly, I may have an opportunity where that's going in to do if I can get an AI LPR, I'm going to put it, I won't say head to head because it's an unfair comparison, but I will try and do a comparison with an AI LPR and a proper ANPR camera that is like, it runs NVIDIA's AI on the camera.
Oh, really?
It runs Jetsons and things like that. So it's more of a, hey, this is how good the LPR is, considering this is what is used elsewhere for the likes of parking enforcement, stuff like that.
Yeah, they tend to be really accurate. I've only ever seen one of those systems detect a plate wrong.
Yes.
And they're well, I don't know what they use, but they seem really impressive. So
yeah, this is the thing. So again, most of my focus at the moment, unfortunately, is work.
Yep.
But I'm active most days on TikTok if I'm not live and answering questions. And as I say to people, it's just, if you see me, just ask a question, and if I can answer it, I find it a lot easier to answer as a video than trying to squeeze it into a few lines of text and put context around stuff.
That's fair.
But at the same time, I say, being able to understand, I say, there's all sorts here. As I say, I mean, if you remember from UWC last year, there's my 7 Pro from it.
Mine's still in the box.
Yeah, that's how much.
Yeah.
I haven't had time to even unbox a U7 Pro.
Yeah.
So, but that's also a whole thing to people out as saying you don't necessarily need a U7 Pro.
Yep.
So.
No, get a U7LR instead, obviously.
You want the lights. You want the nice little lights.
Yeah, okay. That works too.
And that's cheaper than the U6 light.
Yeah, which is they seem to be making things a bit cheaper. Yeah,
but that's kind of like what happened with the G5 camera range.
Yep.
So, better product, cheaper.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper there as well. So yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I think that's what we've got time for, if that's okay. It's been really, really good to have you on the show, Jim. It's always nice to have people on our show. Yeah, we get to you get a different perspective. Actually, before we go, I will just give a shout out to a few people. When I was at UWC, quite a few people, this isn't like a brag or anything, but quite a few people came up to me and said they really appreciate what we do on the podcast, and I'm grateful for that, because me and Evan both enjoy the show. But someone came up to me, I can't remember his name, he said he really appreciates the different perspectives that we have on here. So it was nice to sort of see a few people in person actually watch this or listen to it. So they do exist. But yeah,
there are dozens of them.
Dozens, yeah.
I have to say I was disappointed that we did fail to spot Jake from LTT.
Yes. Yeah, I can't believe he was there. I saw a picture someone photographed, and I was literally probably me and you were probably meters away from it. I didn't even see he was there, but
he was well disguised.
Yeah, he'll be a really good guest for this show. So if he's listening, it'd be good to have you on the show.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Yeah. Again, thanks for joining us on the show. Where can people find you online if they want to find out more about you and the stuff you make?
Jim the IT guy everywhere.
everywhere.
Literally, I'm on. I say YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Discord. There's if you find the links to my bio on TikTok, there's links to Discord, things like that. So yeah, I am Jim the IT guy, practically on most social media channels.
MySpace.
Maybe not quite that level of old. I am old.
Okay. You said everywhere, so.
I'm on Blue Sky.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm on Blue Sky as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the more common social media platforms. But yeah, generally just Jim the IT guy. You'll find me there, and yeah, come and say hello.
Sweet. Yeah. You can find what's your website address, Evan? So if people want to find out that.
EvanMcCann.net.
Awesome. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and you can watch us on YouTube. You can find the show notes at theinterface.uk, and also there's other podcast channels and different channels from the interface as well. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
See you. MySpace?